right? I think that late according to who? Oh, because you're comparing yourself to Michael Saylor, you're comparing yourself to your college roommate, you're comparing yourself to your coworker. Over the last 15 years, the best thing you could have done is buy Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be true for the next 1,500 years. And so as a country, I think we have a choice. I think everyone else around the world is understanding we are pro-growth, pro-business, pro-Bitcoin as this new administration takes office. And we have to make a decision. I think the worst thing we can do is not own enough. And actually, to de-risk this, we should buy some and push these American ideals in technology and innovation and growth through the best performing asset and technology in mankind.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, it has been pretty exciting. If you were over on X, everyone's been watching the price, waiting for it to break 100. It goes up to like 99,008, and then it pulls back, and it pulls back. And you could see on the one-day time frame, it's obviously still hasn't fallen down. Now, I have had some people reach out to me and go, hey, is this thing getting a little overheated? Are we going to break through 100? Should we wait for a pullback? Well, honestly, when you have this much consolidation, over the course of the entire year, bouncing around these levels between 70 down to, 52, we consolidate, and then you have this type of a breakout. This usually represents that period in which you were looking to accumulate. So, I mean, like right off the bat, worst case scenario, I don't know, we come down and retest maybe 72,000. But again, I just want to point out that that is the least of the likely possibilities of really what we're seeing for Bitcoin, because as you guys can see right here, we've had this target all the way up at this 1.618 at around 102. And there's really no resistance above this level, except for, the next area would be around 156. So if anything, you'd be looking for more of these smaller pullbacks, down to maybe 90,000, maybe 81,000. And don't forget, you're going to have this EMA curving up here as well. And another thing, speaking of $100,000 Bitcoin, well, technically yesterday on Bitcoin futures, we already actually hit that $100,000 Bitcoin. So we didn't hit it officially, but we did hit it on the futures, which means that the futures markets are anticipating that 100K Bitcoin is imminent. And to be completely honest with you, we have Thanksgiving coming up. Could we see that pull back to 96, 92? Possibly. But as far as like selling out your full position right now, I can't give you financial advice, but I would just think that, hypothetically, after an entire year of consolidation and having a breakout into price discovery, it's probably going to try to push higher into the end of the year. So that's just my honest, just sort of opinion looking at the charts. And like Isaiah 58K gang pointed out, the crazy thing is that this is only the first monthly candle since the breakout. If we go back to 2021, we had 11 monthly candles after the top. Back to 2017, 11 monthly candles until the top. So could you handle 11 more months of this? And, one of the greatest indicators that we've used is this pi cycle indicator. I'm not going to bring this up every single time that we're making these videos, but you could definitely see that these tops, right? They come in after you have these moving averages either come close or they start to cross, right? You could see right here. That's when we knew the top was in. And you could see above my head, they're still very, very far apart. So it's not showing. In fact, this could still go up to that purple line, which would at least price in $117,000 Bitcoin before we would even consider maybe having somewhat of a cool off. And if you want to hear something insane, yesterday alone saw one of the highest single day profit taking for Bitcoin in history. There was $10.5 billion realized in profits, massive whales profit taking at $100,000, and yet we didn't have a major crash, and all of that got absorbed. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Look at this historical chart. Look at how high that was, and consider the fact that we're only about $2,000 still away from $100,000. So clearly, these profits are being taken, but they're being bought right back up, right? We don't know who these entities are. Maybe they're Michael Saylor and friends. And another thing, we're talking about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. We're talking about Michael Saylor, but there's something even bigger. And if you've been following this channel, you know where I'm going with this. I'll give you the hint right now, sovereign wealth funds. But we're going to get into that a little bit later in this video and why things could get really insane really fast. And again, if you had asked somebody 3 months ago, would we see $100,000 Bitcoin? The answer would have been no, absolutely not this year, not going to happen. Fast forward to now, the likelihood seems incredibly obvious that it's probably going to happen, right? And that is how fast these things can move. You know, it's crazy to think that Bitcoin exchange reserves have actually hit some of the lowest levels that we've seen. So not only are we seeing the demand, 100K Bitcoin, probably going to have the mainstream media talking about it. You're going to have people calling you up asking, should they buy? And, the sad thing is that, I've been making videos since Bitcoin was $2,000, right? We've been talking about this for 8 years on this channel. And, every time the price goes too high, we go to 10K. Oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford it. It goes to 20K. Oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford it. It goes to 70K. Oh, it's too expensive. 100K, $1 million. At the end of the day, if you understand the reason for purchasing Bitcoin, you don't care if you buy high, if you buy low. And actually, I have one example of dollar cost averaging I want to show you later in this video, which 100% proves why that has been the solid strategy all along. I mean, here's another thing. You have Aliens, the largest insurance company in the world by assets, has purchased 25% of MicroStrategy's $3 billion convertible debt. So they are getting exposure. Wonder who saw that coming? Wait until other global insurance companies figure this out. So why did we actually have, why weren't we able to break 100K? Well, some people are theorizing it could be because of this.
We call MSTR. We used to call that Mr. MSTR. I've got to tell you, it's a Bitcoin play. I prefer to actually own Bitcoin. I know that Citron put some sort of short on it. All I can tell you is own Bitcoin. That's a winner. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conclusion of the lightning round.
Right? So Jim Cramer, whatever he says, you just do the absolute opposite. I don't know. He's been flip-flopping back and forth. One day he hates Bitcoin. He loves Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't need Jim Cramer to do well, right? So a lot of stuff to talk about today. Stick around. Going to have some great content. I think we're going to have a very exciting Q4 this year. And super quick, before we get into it, I was going to wait until Bitcoin hit 100,000 to do this, but we're close enough. We hit 99.8. I think that's close enough. So for everyone that's trading over on Blowfin, there is $1 million prize pool available in the War of the Whales. But if you did miss out on that, just for anyone who signed up using the link below, this is for all my Crypto Zombie supporters, we're going to be giving away $1,000 to 5 followers. If you want an extra chance, you can comment your UID in the comments. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. But we're going to be giving that out basically in a week from today. So that's a chance for 5 people randomly selected. If you use the link below, we're going to give out $200 and it's totally free. You could trade. You don't have to do a deposit, although it could increase your chances. The other thing, again, like these are just, I got to get these out of the way, is Arctic Exchange, really awesome decentralized exchange. Definitely, I have very high hopes for this exchange. They have their testnet token now, and you can also get distribution of those funds. I've talked about this now for 3 days. And for all of our MetaSignal subscribers, look at this. Look at these calls that have come out lately. Here's a potential long for Algo. Here is the Cardano, did like 30% or something. Massive entry to the upside. This one, XLM, I mean, if you rode this, that was an insane call. And this one is actually still in the process right now for render. So we've hit our first 2 targets. We haven't hit the third. Again, if you guys are interested in MetaSignals, it is a proven edge strategy. They do have an NFT you can buy. And, if obviously I wouldn't suggest just taking these signals blindly, but if you are interested in a proven trading edge with about a 70% positive return rate, MetaSignals is something that I do stand by. I do back them. And yeah, check that out, guys. So where do we start? Well, I think everyone's been kind of talking about this whole Trump presidency, this pro-Bitcoin presidency that is potentially coming up, right? And now we find out that Trump is considering appointing a crypto czar to oversee U.S. cryptocurrency policy and act as a bridge between Congress and the White House. The role is still in early discussion, but it would support Trump's campaign promise to make the U.S. the global leader in crypto, including plans for a Bitcoin strategic reserve, right? Now, you might have seen this yesterday on top of Elon Musk, on top of Vivek, on top of all this pro-crypto, Bitcoin talk. We now have Trump nominating pro-Bitcoin Scott Bessent as the next Treasury Secretary. And I know we haven't really talked about him much on the channel, but if you did watch this clip from Fox that came out, and this was when Bitcoin was still around 67,000, I think it's pretty obvious that this guy is pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin.
I've been excited about the president's embrace of crypto. And I think it fits very well with the Republican Party, the ethos of crypto is about freedom. And the crypto economy is here to stay. The Democrats are running from it because they're trying to wash off the stench of Sam Bankman-Fried and his family's donations to the Democratic Party. So they're willing to take down a whole industry because of bad behavior on their part, bad behavior one actor. And I think that everything's on the table with Bitcoin. And to me, one of the most exciting things about Bitcoin is for a generation of investors who maybe post the great financial crisis have been looking for investment opportunities, or maybe they'd soured on markets. Crypto is bringing in young people. It's bringing in the people who haven't participated in markets, and having a market culture in the U.S. and people believing that markets work for them is a centerpiece of capitalism.
And I think the problem that's happening right now is, we do have a lot of that dismantling of the mainstream media. A lot more people are using X. Laser eyes have stayed, by the way, until 100K. I never removed mine if you've been following me. I kept them on, and they're going to stay on until 100K. But, talking about, for example, you had Jack Mallers, the Strike CEO over on Bloomberg Technology. And, the worst thing is almost not owning enough Bitcoin, or it used to be risky to not own it, but now the question is, do I not have enough?
In 1933, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're taking all your gold. In 1971, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're divorcing ourselves from the gold standard so we can print money. In 2008, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? It was we're bailing out all the big banks that misbehaved. In 2025, if the US has a really big economic announcement, what is it? It's we're pro-technology, we're pro-innovation. What principles and morals and ethical alignment does Bitcoin have? Equal rights, equal opportunity, an open network. These are American ideals, American values. This is an asset that was accessible to the people 15 years ago that the people own. Governments only own 2, 3, 4% of this asset. This asset is held by the people. It acts in the best interest of the public. It's pro-jobs, it's pro-energy, it's pro-industry, it's pro-growth. And does anyone else have a plan to get us out of debt? Are we going to start a lemonade stand out here in Times Square? No, how about the best performing asset in the history of mankind? We lean into it, we buy it. Coinbase is an American company, Strike's an American company, Kraken's an American company, Tether sells the US dollar. Let's support these businesses. Let's support this industry.
But the market cap is less than Nvidia for the entire crypto ecosystem. When does that become bigger?
I think when people buy it, listen, I think that ego gets in the way of many people. People think they're late to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, right? I think that late according to who? Oh, because you're comparing yourself to Michael Saylor, you're comparing yourself to your college roommate, you're comparing yourself to your coworker. Over the last 15 years, the best thing you could have done is buy Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be true for the next 1,500 years. And so as a country, I think we have a choice. I think everyone else around the world is understanding we are pro-growth, pro-business, pro-Bitcoin as this new administration takes office. And we have to make a decision. I think the worst thing we can do is not own enough. And actually, to de-risk this, we should buy some and push these American ideals in technology and innovation and growth through the best performing asset and technology in mankind.
I mean, and this isn't just the average, everyday, local person talking about it. I mean, that'll probably come soon. Retail is usually the last to join the party, although the beauty of Bitcoin is that retail has had, and maybe arguably still could have, an opportunity to front run the bigger institutions. But you got Charles Schwab, obviously the CEO of Schwab, managing $9 trillion in assets, saying, I've not bought crypto and I actually now feel silly. He says, we will get into spot crypto. So, you have BlackRock pushing it. Imagine when you have Charles Schwab pushing it to their clients. And then on top of it, you have their clients demanding exposure to things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's going to put a lot of pressure on these antiquated sort of dinosaur, whatever you want to call them, brokerages or asset managers. And eventually you're going to see that portfolio allocation going from 1% to 2% to 3% to 5%, right, at some point. And when you start doing those numbers in your head, like Fred Krueger said the other day, the ability to exponentially grow is actually literally astronomical. And again, this is a side note, I'm digressing for a minute, but For everyone that's watching out there, I know Bitcoin is now almost $100,000. I know you're feeling like you missed the boat, but the beauty of dollar cost averaging is that if you just stayed persistent and resilient and you were able to put that, I always say everyone can afford to, skip the cup of coffee in the morning or maybe not go out to dinner, just take 10%. I know times are hard. I get it. Like we're all dealing with inflation, but if you just take 10%, you don't have to go all in. Look at this guy. This user's been buying $30 a day. Maybe that's a lot for some people, but I'm saying $30 DCAing after 7 years and 10 months. So about almost 8 years of dollar cost averaging, meaning this guy was buying the highs, he was buying the lows, he was buying the mids, and he ultimately ended up spending about $86,370. Now, this is over the course of 8 years. No one's saying you had to drop $86K in a day. And this portfolio is now worth $1 million. And you can come over here to this website called DCA BTC, and you could just see if you did a weekly purchase, for 8 years, and you put the amount, let's say, let's say $30 or let's do $100 a week, whatever. And, you could see the portfolio value over time. So, up $31,926. So you basically doubled, and this is over 100%. And this is assuming that you were buying every week, including the tops, right? So, you could extrapolate, 3 years data, whatever you want. And it kind of puts into perspective the power of dollar cost averaging. But the biggest question is, like the Bitwise CEO says, we're entering a bit of a new chapter right now for Bitcoin where you had those early adopters and Bitcoin was not seen as a mature asset class. And maybe now it's technically still not at that point, but it's starting to enter that point. Remember I told you that the big players, they don't care about the price, they care about the stability, they care about the track record, they care about providing something that is safe to their clients. Well, that's why now you could see that it's becoming mature enough. And, this is what could push that price much higher.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Kelly. In some ways, it feels like Bitcoin has been around forever now. We've been talking about it for years. It's 16 years old. But I think that 2024 was really the end of an early chapter and the beginning of a mainstream chapter. And we serve, we manage about 11 billion in client assets. We serve thousands of advisors, and the clear impression we have is that investors are engaging now. They view it as finally having matured enough, having the regulatory clarity they need. So somehow it feels like the beginning of the next stage of the journey. I'll give you an example. We, as mentioned, serve thousands of wealth management teams across the country. The day after the election, one of my colleagues got an email from a client. The subject line was, "It's time," and the content of the email was effectively that they want to go ahead and proceed with making a 1% allocation to Bitcoin. That hasn't even happened yet. I have a call later today with the CIO of a $50 billion plus firm, and they said it's time, and the next step is to write a white paper in Q1 of next year. So what we see across the board is traditional capital markets participants are activating, but most of that is still in front of us. So yeah. I think Bitcoin has a lot of room to run.
Even Apple's CEO Tim Cook admits that he owns some Bitcoin. So I wonder if they would consider adding it to their reserves.
Well, let me ask you a different question, because you just said that you might not do it personally. Do you own crypto, any Bitcoin or Ethereum? Would you play around with this?
I do, yeah. I think it's reasonable to own it as a part of a diversified portfolio. And I'm not giving anybody investment advice, by the way.
When did you get interested in it?
I've been interested in it for a while. And I've, been researching it and so forth. And so I think it's interesting.
But here is the big kicker. And this is not new to anyone who's been... By the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel, there are a lot of people that watch this channel who are not subscribed. I do appreciate it. But if you guys get subscribed and you turn on the bell notifications, you'll get these updates because... I put a lot of effort into these, and I like when you guys share them and watch them. So long story short, we've been talking about, I would say for 2 years now, sovereign wealth funds, right? This isn't just like a strategic Bitcoin reserve for just the US. You're talking about these massive multi-trillion-dollar funds. These guys they're the ones that are buying the gold. Maybe they have the oil, who knows? And they're not looking to do like a little 5%, 20% flip. No, they're looking to buy an asset and hold an asset long-term, 10, 20, 25, 30 years, right? Because they want to hedge against the global inflation. And that's, love him or hate him. I haven't always been the biggest fan of Kevin O'Leary, but, he explains that quite clearly on Swan Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is going to hit $100,000 long before the holiday, I think. It's so close, and there's no resistance here. This is the crypto of choice for financial institutions and sovereign wealth. They don't care about anything else, just Bitcoin. The truth is, sovereign wealth has still yet to get involved. People keep talking as if they are, not yet. But when they come on, this will go and go and go and go because they're agnostic to the price. They're going to hold it for 10 years.
But you might be asking yourself, what is the big driver behind it, right? I don't understand. How could Bitcoin just keep going up forever when there's only a limited amount of money? Well, that's the thing. There's not a limited amount of money. In fact, it's all a facade. Don't you guys remember when Fred got rid of their money chart because it was just like a hockey stick going straight up? They were so embarrassed, they actually took the chart down, right? And Eric Belchunas, who is the intelligence senior officer over at Bloomberg, was discussing that Bitcoin keeps rising. I'm not going to say simply because of government money printing, but that is what governments do. They will continue. Look, it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter if you voted for one person, you voted for another person. It doesn't matter if you leave the US, you move to another country. It does not matter. Inflation is coming for you. Money printer goes burr, and Bitcoin is a hedge against that.
In order to even entertain Bitcoin, you have to have one thing in your brain. You have to kind of acknowledge that governments across the world are going to continue to print money and debase their own currencies to solve problems because it's politically expedient. If you don't think that, you'll never come around on Bitcoin, ever. So that's what I found Bitcoin is. Some people are like, it has no purpose, no sense. Right. But that's why people are using it. That's how BlackRock is marketing it. They even show a chart of the purchasing power of the dollar since the Fed came out. You used to see those charts like in the deep corners of crypto Twitter. Now BlackRock is out there traveling the world showing people this chart. So that to me is what people are using it for, especially in the emerging markets. That's where actually holding it directly, I think, even has more of an appeal. In the US, a little less so. But I think people do like to have that feeling like their real return might not be as bad if you have a little Bitcoin.
I also wonder when you think about MicroStrategy and what they're doing, right? A lot of people said Saylor was either going to go down in history as being the craziest, most disruptive, potentially damaging CEO of a company of all time, or he's going to go down as an absolute hero and, basically paving the way for all these future companies to come. And there was this guy over on Fab the Fox. I don't know who this is. I don't know if this is him. But listen to his breakdown of this. It's a little bit long, but I think you should listen to it because I think a lot of other companies could adopt this, and they're going to be pretty shocked when they see how this is, it's already turned out quite well for Saylor and friends, but, it could literally just keep going.
Do you guys ever sit back and think, like, what if you're actually just going insane and crazy? And that what you see so clearly, what if it's actually not going to happen? But then you think, like, you do the math, you realize that it's not you going crazy, it's not you going insane, it's everybody else. Because if you review the data, just at the data alone, you don't even have to think about what's going on with the governments, the companies, the chart, which is the most bullish chart I've ever seen in my life on the Bitcoin weekly and monthly. But if you just review the data, you know that in halving years, on Q4, in the following year, Bitcoin goes up like 5-6 times. So we're already seeing that start to play out. So just off of that, keep it simple. You know that's coming. But then you think in regards to MicroStrategy. So people say, oh, they're overvalued. That's got to come down, right? They're overvalued. Why buy that over Bitcoin? They don't understand the premise of it all. The higher their share price goes, the more Bitcoin they can buy, which increases the Bitcoin per share, which increases the price further, which allows them to buy even more, on and on and on. This is not some phase that stops. When MicroStrategy 2 weeks ago, they announced they bought $2 billion of Bitcoin that week. The next biggest company in the world owns $2 billion total. Last week, their share price was up a little bit more, the volume was a little more, they could do significantly more ATM, and they got 4.5, I think. They bought $4.5 billion of Bitcoin that week. This week, the price of MicroStrategy and the volume trading is significantly higher than last week. Michael Saylor in MicroStrategy could easily buy $10 billion of Bitcoin this week. And this is where the normie and the average mind cannot comprehend what is coming. Once that data is released, the price of MicroStrategy is going to explode and people are going to start understanding what's going on here. But it doesn't end there. Once the price goes further up and the volume gets even higher, and people understand more and more what's happening, they can do more ATM at a higher price and buy even more Bitcoin. They could do 20 billion, theoretically, the following week. And once that happens, they can buy even more and more. And on top of that, Bitcoin itself is going to potentially $400,000 by the end of next year, just off the data. And then you compound that with the fact Trump and the US government could start buying Bitcoin themselves, starting a digital gold race among every global superpower. The price Bitcoin could go, we can't even comprehend. The potential, and MicroStrategy is going to keep buying more and more, increasing their Bitcoin yield, increasing their Bitcoin per share, and it's going to cycle on. This is not just going to go up linearly. This is going to be parabolic, and nobody knows it yet. I feel like we are onto something that nobody else can see clearly yet, whether it's CNBC, Wall Street, some company that does research. They don't see the big picture of what's actually going on here. And the volume and the price of MicroStrategy is telling us what's going to happen. And this is just my opinion. But I really do not think anybody is prepared for how high MicroStrategy is about to go, how much Bitcoin they're able to buy. And I think this cycle is only going to feed on itself. And I really believe that we are about to enter a parabolic portion of the MicroStrategy story. That's just my opinion. You can call me crazy, but I don't think anyone's bullish enough in this spot. And I really think MicroStrategy could 10x in a year. $1 trillion market cap. It's going to be the talk of the world. Most people do not know who MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor are right now. Believe me, in a year, everyone in the world is going to know what's going on.
So I know that was like a little bit different. I just wanted to show you. I do not officially own any MicroStrategy. I'm just like a Bitcoin purist. Like I'll just buy the coin itself. But you know, if you got a Robinhood account or you're into it, it might be one of the best performing stocks, of the decade. We'll see how that keeps going, with Bitcoin and how they keep doing these convertible notes and things. But one thing I do want to say for anyone who is new watching, there's a lot of meme coin extravaganza going on right now. There's been public rugs. There's like this 15-year-old kid who created a coin and made like $30,000 and then dumped on everybody, right? I know Andrew Tate's been doing a lot of live streams, and I'm not pinpointing anybody. Look, this is the Wild West when it comes to meme coins and altcoins, but I do just have to say, I have been in 3 cycles now. Just be careful of these meme coins, these Celsius, BlockFis, high yield, staking things that you have to, give control of your Bitcoin. I always suggest putting it on a ledger if you want to own your own custody. If not, you could buy an ETF if you feel safer. Just be careful chasing the smaller guys because Bitcoin's at 100,000. When I first started buying, it was 2,000. I get it. Maybe you weren't around then. That's fine. It's going to $1 million in our lifetime. Just be careful with the excessive greed. It could really hurt you because as you've seen, a lot of the altcoins were underperforming for the majority of the year and still have. I mean, Ethereum, I'm not bashing on it. I own ETH, but, clearly has not performed the way that Bitcoin has, and I'm sure we're going to get an alt season. I'm sure it's going to catch up, but just be careful playing those desperate plays, putting all your eggs in one basket in some, cult coin or something. and then you just hold the bags for several years. You know, always get that Bitcoin allocation. I've said to people, try to get one Bitcoin. If you think one Bitcoin could be worth $1 million by 2030, 2035, then, you know, for me, I mean, I'm a little older, I'm a millennial. Maybe the Gen Zers, they have more tolerance for risk appetite. I did 8 years ago, but now I'm more concerned about that wealth preservation. Wealth generation is great. You know, making money is great, but you have to have the ability to preserve it, right? To actually keep that money that you made. And if you're not going to sell and you're not going to trade, the best strategy has simply been to hodl, to DCA and accumulate, right? So I know it's boring and it's not like the sexy thing to talk about, but it works. You know, it has a proven track record of working. I was going to play this clip about the SEC commissioner because obviously Gary Gensler is going to end up resigning. It's honestly, it's kind of a boring clip. It's basically just about how, you know, we're finally going to hopefully start getting some regulations on crypto. And I don't think it's kind of a boring clip to play. Actually, in some altcoin non-crypto news, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Off the Grid just won Best Shooter Game of the Year. And this is something that I've been really excited about with Gunzilla Games. A lot of people think I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I mean, I own primarily majority, yes, but I do dabble. I think this is like one of those things where these guys are actually introducing blockchain to the masses. This game is going to be available, you know, on PlayStation for, you know, and set up wallets for everybody. So it's just a really interesting thing. They have NFTs. I don't know. I think to myself, there's going to be the Bitcoin people, there's going to be the meme people, there's going to be the gamers, you know, and I think ultimately it will build the crypto space. But for the most part, what I look at is the bigger picture. I look at the sovereign wealth funds and I look at what these bigger players are going to be doing, and they're not really going to be buying like Popcat or buying Peanut or buying Chill Guy, right? I mean, which, hey, you know, some people made some money on that. That's great. Just be careful and take profits, you know, at least take back your initial profit. But I wanted to end one more on why, once you understand why gold becomes, or why gold sort of became money, you'll probably sell most of your gold and buy Bitcoin. And this was actually Cynthia Loomis talking about the strategic reserve. And I think this is a really good kind of video to end on.
The other thing is the proposal that I have and that President Trump has discussed about a strategic Bitcoin reserve or strategic Bitcoin stockpile, where the United States would acquire and hold Bitcoin for 20 years. Because of the way that Bitcoin has been appreciating since inception, this would be an asset that could help shore up the US dollar as the world reserve currency and serve as a reserve that could be used to reduce the national debt significantly. You know, the American people are still hurting from inflation, from high prices. And they want the national debt reduced. These are ways to do it with an asset that is immutable, can easily be held by the federal government in a variety of vaults, and that states can participate in as well. So this is the gold standard digital asset, and a strategic Bitcoin reserve is the way to embed it.
You know, we got off the gold standard a long time ago. My question is how much you would spend tax dollars at a time where we're talking about trying to reduce costs. How much would you spend on Bitcoin as part of this reserve?
We wouldn't have to spend any new dollars. We have reserves at our 12 Federal Reserve banks, including gold certificates that could be converted to current fair market value. They're held at their 1970s value on the books, and then sell them into Bitcoin. That way, we wouldn't have to use any new dollars in order to establish this reserve. The United States already holds over 200,000 Bitcoin in the asset forfeiture funds. So that would be the initial source of Bitcoin. So no new money spent on this reserve.
All right, again, so pushing the TA to the end of the video because there's not much TA to go over. We're in price discovery. We can only look at previous levels, right? We can extrapolate, you know, maybe using our sort of deviation of levels we could go to, but mostly we're looking at having nice support on this EMA, you know, so as you guys can see, we do tend to touch here and have these retest. So, if you assume that we're going to continue up here, maybe Bitcoin comes down, retests like a cool 90K area, possibly if you even get a pullback. I believe we're in dips are for buying mode personally. That's where I think we're at. Here's a really clean, longer overview chart. So this is dating back to August of 2022. And you can see we've made some pretty clear tops in this channel, some pretty clear bottoms in this channel. And we do find resistance, on this heart line. You'll see resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. We got support back here. So, if you have a look at this chart, and this is assuming we just go straight up today, that puts us at around $118,000 before maybe having that correction. And keep in mind, this chart goes back 2 years. So, it's been pretty nice within this channel. I think the likelihood of coming back down to the 66K area is not as likely as continuing minimally to the top of the channel. But I will say again, if Bitcoin was to crash, and crash, right? Because Bitcoin's known for 20-30% pullbacks, a 36% pullback from where we are right now would bring us back to 63,000. It would still be supported on the bottom of this range. And I personally, not financial advice, think that would be an excellent buy the dip opportunity. I just don't know that we're going to get it, because if we go back even farther, here's a massive parallel channel that's been forming since May of 2017, before the 2017 blow off top. We have resistance at the top, resistance at the top, support at the bottom, support at the bottom. We put in this giant cup and handle pattern, right? And if you look at this, we are finding resistance right here at the heart line. So the worst case scenario, if you think that, which this would be absolutely insane to happen at this point, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. We came all the way down. You're still looking at maybe a $35,000 Bitcoin. But guys, I'm telling you, the higher likelihood is retesting this as support and moving to the top of this channel to, complete this. And it would still be within a diminishing returns. It still wouldn't be making as much. And if you have a look down here, you have this larger wave, right? You have this anchor wave, trigger wave, right? These are connecting. You have the money flow moving to the upside. And what happens when you get this combination? You get this parabolic move. And I don't know if I'm in the way right here. Let me move this. What do you see happening right now, right? You have this anchor wave, trigger wave, trigger wave. We have the money flow. Look at this, moving to the upside. RSI can stay here much longer than you think, okay? And this is kind of setting us up for that springboard to potentially have a move, like we had back here. Look at this move right here, and look at the move that we have right here. This is all we're celebrating, this little thing right here. So ultimately, guys, I think there is much more for this price action to go. Bitcoin has had 20%, 30% pullbacks in the past. It is very possible to still see that happen, but I do believe that the trajectory is up and to the right, and I think we will continue to do that before seeing any major sell-offs. I could be wrong, right? There's always the chance that I'm not perfect. I'm just a guy on the internet, but I would think that after 6 to 7 months of sideways consolidation, not being able to break out, getting rejected, then finally having the breakout, that tells me that whoever was going to sell, they sold. Whoever was going to buy, bought. That's it. We're moving on. We have a solid base now, and that's what happened with the 30K area. We stayed in the 30K area for a year and a half, and then Bitcoin made one final dip below it, and then we never saw below it ever again. That could be what's happening with the 60K area as well. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you again for coming back to the channel. Again, if you guys do want, don't forget, drop your UID below if you want an extra chance to win. If you don't want, that's fine. We're giving away $1,000. Like I said, I was going to wait for 100K, but we basically hit it. So we could just do this right now. And yeah, guys, check out Antarctic Exchange if you're into decentralized trading, and also Meta Signals if you're interested in that proven edge. But until next time, guys, that is it for me. Hope you're having a wonderful, is it a weekend? Wonderful weekend? I don't know. I've lost track of all time. So if you want to learn how to trade, check out these tutorials popping up right here, right now. They're different exchanges, but it's basically the same. It's copy and paste. If you can trade on this one, you could trade on this one, you could trade on that one. It's all the same exchanges. You get used to the buttons, you know what you're doing, or just DCA and HODL. But until next time, guys, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.